What's up, everybody? All right, so we are going to look at how to do some basic mixing today. We're going to be using Reaper as our digital audio workstation. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take those Dream Theater stems and we're going to bring them right into Reaper. We're going to use 5 different tracks on that. So when it gives you the option, you're going to do new tracks, okay? Next thing we're going to do is we're going to rename these. So we can already see on here that this is keyboard stems. So if we were to solo this, there's all your keyboards. This one right here is your vocals.
8, mounting the attack while heroes carry.
Okay, this is your bass. These are your drums. These are already heavily affected. And then finally, these are your guitars. So without doing any effects or any sort of volume or panning changes, we already noticed that they're actually sounding pretty good. So we got some pretty good stems here. Okay, so first thing we're going to look at is look at our panning. So over on the left-hand side or right up the middle of the tracks, we see that there's some panning. We can either move things right or left. Okay, so if we want to move these guitars to the right, now they show up on the right. We see that they're on the right over here. If we want to move them left, now they're right on the left. So we're going to keep them center for right now. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at all of the volumes. And usually the way I start out mixing overall, let me hide this for a second. Okay. Usually the way we start mixing, so to speak, is we bring all of the faders down. Okay. If we start with the faders down, then we're not sort of chasing the faders and flirting around that zero and clipping area, okay? So what we want to do is bring all of the faders down. We can do that by just bringing all of the faders down right over here. Okay, I'm just going to turn them all the way down so we actually don't even hear them. So if I hit play, we're not hearing much of it. Okay, so we turned all of the volumes down, but next thing we want to do is we want to look at what is going on with the master track and with the mixer. So we're going to go over to view, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the master track. So all of these tracks right here, in the end, route to the master track. So if I was to hit play, we wouldn't see anything, but if I was to bring up these volumes, that's the master. So all of these volumes right here mixed together.
8, mounting the attack.
Now, if you look, this track and this track do not appear to have any clipping. The volumes seem to be good, but when we add them together, we notice that the master track is clipping.
8,
right? So we gotta be careful
the
of that.
attack.
Okay, so when we start mixing, we're actually trying to mix so that the master fader is not clipping at all. So I'm going to turn these down again, and the next view we're going to look at is the mixer. So if we go to view and mixer, now we have this little mixer panel right over here that is going to allow us to kind of control the volumes a little bit more. So the mixer view is the same exact thing as what we see over here. It's just in a more traditional view. So we have a fader right over here. This one's going to control this one, and we notice that if we move this, those move as well. We can mute, we can solo. We can also do some routing over here. We can add our effects like we saw in the previous video, which is really cool. And then here's our master fader. So typically what I like to do is, well, let me move it. Nope, okay. Sometimes we can move that master fader all to the right-hand side, but it's fine there on the left. Okay, so I'm going to turn all these volumes down like I already did. And now I'm going to start with the drums. Okay, so my drums are this track right over here. So I'm just going to bring those drums to about 0, and I'm going to start in the spot where the drums are actually happening. That sounds pretty good. Actually, I was clipping there, so I'm going to stop it. I'm going to bring those drums down a little bit. Now, don't worry if the volume doesn't sound really loud in your headphones. You're actually going to turn up your headphones, not turn up the mixer, okay? If you need more volume, turn up your headphones, not the mixer, okay? What we're looking for here is a nice quality control so that when we go and push this out to any streaming service or iPod or whatever, we're not going to be clipping the final master recording. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the vocals. I want the drums and the vocals to really be up front. So I'm going to put those vocals right around here.
We spiral.
So this is a good example. The drums and the vocals are all in the green, but when you put them together, they're in the red. So we need to bring them down.
We spiral towards disaster. Survival fading faster.
Okay, now you might be tempted to actually pull this volume down on the master fader. That's a no-no. Do not touch the master fader. Okay, we want to do most of our mixing in this area right over here. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit.
We spiral towards disaster.
And that actually sounds pretty good now. So next thing we're going to do is going to add the bass. Okay, so we added drums, then vocals, then we're going to do bass.
Spiral towards disaster.
And we're just sort of adding it in so that, you know, it's supporting the drums right there. I like that the way it is right there. I can hear the vocals very clearly. Okay, now let's add in some guitars.
We spiral towards disaster.
Okay, now I added some guitars, and if you notice, my master fader now is not really clipping, okay? So I'm adding in everything in from the bottom all the way to the top, and I'm getting some really good gain staging.
We spiral towards disaster.
I push the guitars a little bit.
Fading faster.
Okay, so that's going to be a keyboard part. So now I'm going to add in those keyboards really gently.
We spiral towards disaster. Survival fading faster.
Okay, so I'm going to bring those guitars down just a smidge. Bring up some drums. So you're going to have to sort of now be a little bit nitpicky and say, okay, well, the guitars are a little bit too much. I'm going to bring down the guitars, bring up the drums, but we're not pushing it so that there's red line over here. Let's get to a... Okay, so this is a really important concept to understand as well. So once I got to a really important part of the song, I noticed that I was starting to clip here. And what it looked like was that our keyboards were clipping. There was just a little too much of everything, and those keyboards just pushed right over the top. Oh, and that was probably a drum. Clips. But that is the idea. Okay, so when you start mixing, you want to make sure that you start with all of your faders down, and then you're going to bring them up nice and slowly until finally our master fader is not clipping. That is mixing 101.